Hi everyone, this is TJ Sutton with Avidyne's Tech Support Group, and in the following video I'll be walking you guys through the procedures for updating the software on the IFD 500 and 400 series Avidyne GPS ComNav units, and I'll be walking you through some of the particular things you'll want to watch out for, some of the pitfalls and some of the things to keep an eye on. So first and foremost, we've got to get the legal statement out of the way, so here we go. Nothing in the following video constitutes an approval to install software on the IFDs. Okay, this is just a training and an FYI type video. So the software update constitutes a minor alteration, so the FAA regulations say that it must be signed off by an appropriately rated repair station, A&P or IA. If the software update is going to be performed by someone that is not an Avidyne authorized dealer, you should also understand that if the software load goes sideways and the unit needs to come back to Avidyne for repair, there will be some charges that apply to that. Those would be charged in advance. Those charges are not going to be covered under Avidyne extended warranty, and we are not going to have exchange units available, so that's going to be repair and return only. Repair and returns may take up to 10 to 15 business days. We usually can beat that pretty handily, especially for a software load problem, but it's first in, first out, so it depends on what the workload looks like. So it could be as long as 10 to 15 business days. So keep that in mind. So the first thing we're going to get into on the software update part of this is what does this apply to? So this applies to any of the IFD series. You'll see the 182 part numbers, these are the 500 series units, and the 179 part numbers are the 400 series units, and they already have to be at 10.1.0.0 or later. Any software version later than 10.1.0, we're good to go with this software update without having to do this thing in steps. You can jump straight from 10.1.0 all the way to 10.2.3.1. Now, if you have an IFD that is earlier than 10.1.0, that's going to be a special circumstance. Please get a hold of us at tech support. You can just shoot an email over to techsupport@avidyne.com, and we'll let you guys know what you need to do with that unit, because it falls into a different category. But as long as you're 10.1 or later, you should be good to go for this software update. And here's where you can verify what current software level your IFD is running. So after the unit boots up, if you go over here to the aux page group and toggle over to the system tab, you should see a software version right up here. And again, as long as this is 10.1.0 or later, you should be good to go for this software update. The load time on this is going to vary a little bit based off of what your current software version is. So if you're running one of the 10.1 series softwares, it could take up to about an hour and a half. So plan on probably 90 minutes or so. If you're already running some version of 10.2, it's substantially less, but you're still looking at anywhere from an hour, probably 45 minutes to an hour to update one of these things. So the big thing to keep in mind here is that aircraft battery power is probably not going to last you that long doing this software update. We absolutely recommend getting an external power supply hooked up to the aircraft if you're going to update them in the aircraft. If not, I would pull the unit and take it and put it on a bench and do the update on a bench so that you don't have to worry about that power dropping offline during the update. A battery tender is not going to be sufficient to do this, just so you guys know. We have had guys that have done the software updates by running the engine, and you can do that as long as your alternator is supplying voltage for the duration of the update. Fuel costs are certainly a consideration at that point, but you should absolutely be aware that if the unit drops power during the update, there's a very, very good chance that IFD is going to have to come back to Avidyne for repair. That being said, you've been forewarned. Make sure that you've got an external power card hooked up to the aircraft, and we're not killing batteries. Okay. First thing we're going to have to do is format a USB drive. Okay, so you're going to need a USB flash drive of 8 or 16 gigs. and you're going to need a PC running either Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, and it doesn't say it on the slide, but Windows 10 is fine as well. But you have to have an available USB port on this thing. Do not try to use a Mac or an Apple product to do this update. What we have found is that Mac computers will write special files to the USB drives, and that can corrupt the compact flash inside the IFD. So if you try to do this on a Mac, there's a very good chance you're going to corrupt the operating system on the IFD. The IFD is going to have to come home, so don't even bother doing it. Okay, find a PC. Your USB flash drive, again, should be 8 gigs to 16 gigs, somewhere in that ballpark. Put the thumb drive in your computer, go to My Computer, right-click on the corresponding drive, select Format from the drop-down. Under File System, we're going to select FAT32. It has to be formatted to FAT32 for these IFDs. Put a check mark next to the Quick Format and hit Start. Now, also make a note here that anything you've got on that thumb drive, as soon as you hit Quick Format and Start, it's going to wipe everything off of that thumb drive. So make sure that if there's something important on there that you've got it saved elsewhere, because we're going to use this thumb drive for only IFD software and nothing else. Okay? So here's what that looks like. If you go over here and find your thumb drive in your My Computer section, right-click on that, you'll have a drop-down window, and there will be a spot there that says Format. Select Format, and it's going to pop up with this type of window. We're going to select File System Type FAT32. We're going to select Quick Format, and we're going to hit Start. Now, once you've downloaded the software from our FTP site, that's going to come as a zip file. So the other piece to this is you're going to have to extract all of that data from the zip file. The IFD doesn't know how to read a zip file, so if you just throw that zip file on the thumb drive and stick it in the IFD, it's not going to work. It's not going to read it. It's not going to know what to do with it. So what you'll want to do is, once you've downloaded that zip file, go find that zip file where it's been saved at, right-click on that guy, and go down here to Extract All. And once you extract all, what that's going to do is it's going to create a new folder called 10.2.3.1_update, but you'll see that that .zip is eliminated from the file extension. And once you've done that, go ahead and open that folder that contains all of those newly extracted files, and it should look like this. You're going to see a gold master, you're going to see a full update DSF, you're going to see a conformity checker, you're going to see the service bulletin, and you're going to see a file down here called Run Once. Now, these three files right here, the gold master, the full update, and the conformity checker, these are all DSF files. Don't try to open those with your computer. Your computer's not going to know what to do with them anyway. But those are the files that are going to need to be on the thumb drive, along with this Run Once file. Now, you'll notice this Run Once does not have a file extension. If you try to open this with your computer, it's going to try to turn this into a text file. If that happens, it's fine. You can just right-click on it and rename the thing and just get rid of the .txt that it adds to the end if that happens, because the IFD doesn't know what to do with a text file. But without a file extension, the file called Run Once, we absolutely will know what to do with. So this is what it should look like after you've extracted all those files. That's what that folder should look like. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those files, with the exception of the service bulletin, and we're going to move those over to our freshly formatted thumb drive. So again, not the service bulletin, but everything else. So this is what your thumb drive should look like after you've dragged and dropped those files onto your removable USB drive. We should have the gold master, we should have the full update, we should have the conformity checker, and we should have the Run Once file. Okay? And at this point, it would be a good idea to go ahead and open that service bulletin up and print that guy out so that you've got a paper copy of it. The next thing we're going to want to do is go into the IFD and go into maintenance mode with the IFD, and we'll want to go in there and save all of our configuration settings. So the easiest way to do this is to go into maintenance mode, go to your config tab, and just pull out your cell phone and snap pictures of all of those pages. Understand that if the software load goes sideways and for some reason we've got to do some type of a compact flash reformat or what have you, that Some of those config settings are going to get lost, so if we don't know exactly how your aircraft is wired, we're not going to be able to help you out with those. So we definitely need to make sure we capture that data before we begin the software upload. Again, just to reiterate, some of the things that we may lose if something goes sideways during this software update are going to be your GPS antenna settings, all of your main system config page settings, so all of your maintenance mode stuff, all of your port settings, your data blocks, your volume settings, user options, FMS setup values, map setup values. So you'll notice some of these are listed as in flight mode, and a lot of these are going to be just your user option type setups, saved frequencies, those types of things. You'll want to make sure you got a record of all of those, because again, if something goes sideways in this software update, we may end up losing all of that data. The biggest item that I cannot stress this enough, though, is to make sure you know what your AirLink 429 and your RS-232 port settings are, and you'll get those in maintenance mode on the config pages, because Avidyne does not have any record of how your aircraft is wired, so we don't know how to even help you at that point set those ports up for whatever is connected on those ports. If I don't have a wiring diagram, I don't know what's being fed into that port. I can't tell you how to set it. So that being said, save yourself a lot of heartache. Get some pictures of your config settings. In fact, it's probably a good idea for most people to have that handy anyway. Just save it on a folder on your computer and call it a day. Another note to make here is that if you're going to update multiple IFDs in the aircraft, and those IFDs are cross-synced to one another, you're going to want to make sure that you only do one at a time. You're going to want to make sure that the one that's not being run, so whatever the opposite IFD is to the one that you're currently updating, is powered off for the entire sequence, for the entire time. There are scenarios where if we're trying to load software to both IFDs at the same time, that cross-sync bus can actually feed information back and forth, and it can corrupt the software load on both units. So don't do that. One at a time, and make sure that the opposite unit is powered off entirely. The other piece to this is if we're doing multiple IFDs, that run once file that we talked about, you're going to have to reload that to the thumb drive for the second unit. Essentially what happens is after the first unit has completed the software update and everything's good to go, it's going to self-delete that run once file, so you will need to take that and throw that back on the thumb drive to go ahead and start the load on the next unit. All of the ESF files should still be there, but that run once file will disappear on you. Okay? If you do decide to pull the IFD out and stick it on a bench setup, the big thing to know here is that both the main power inputs and the VHF power inputs have to be connected. So the 5001 connector and the 5002 connector both have to have power. Okay, so if the VHF is not powered up on the IFD, it's going to fail the software update. If that happens, it's okay, but it's going to fail out, and it's not going to do any serious harm. But what you'll want to do is leave the USB drive in, turn the unit off, and then get power to that VHF connector, and then turn the IFD back on, and the update should resume from the point that it failed out at. Okay, if it doesn't, take a picture of the screen that you're seeing and shoot that over to techsupport@avidyne.com and give us a description of where you're at in the service bulletin, what step you're on, what happened. Okay. Beginning the upgrade, that run once file, what it really is going to do is it's going to cause this software update to go ahead and kick into action on its own. It's fairly automated. Very little human interaction needs to happen. But there are a couple of places where it will be required and a couple of points to look out for here. So we'll go through some of those. There are going to be some times during the software update that the IFD is going to reboot itself and resume operation on its own. That's completely normal. Don't freak out about it. There will be times the IFD will look like it powered off. Don't worry about it. That's totally normal. It's supposed to do that. You might see at times the progress bar is going to report that a particular step is 100% complete, but it doesn't automatically advance to the next step immediately. It's doing some stuff in the background. Again, don't worry about it. That's totally normal. It's supposed to do that. Okay? So like I say, with the run once file, it should kick into maintenance mode, and it should kick straight to the update tab, and it should just automatically start running the software. If it doesn't, if you have to manually put this thing into maintenance mode, you can go on the IFD, go to the aux page group, go to the system tab, and select update databases or download logs. You might see a download logs button there as well, and that'll get us into maintenance mode. Once we get into maintenance mode is when you should go over to the update tab, and you should see that the software is already running. And this just goes a little bit deeper into that. So verify the IFD's automatically begun the update process. If it's not auto started the update process, make sure that you're actually on the update tab. If you select the download logs to get into maintenance mode manually, it'll take you to the download logs tab rather than the update tab. So you may have to just toggle over to the update tab to see that the software is actually already running and it's doing its thing. If for some reason it does not automatically start on its own, what we need you to do is go over here to the load 10.2.3.1 file on the update tab. Use the lower right hand knob to highlight just that piece and press it like a button, and that should put a green check mark next to load 10.2.3.1 only, and then hit proceed, and it should take off from there. After usually 4 to 5 minutes, somewhere in that ballpark, you're going to see this message pop up, and it's going to say, have you backed up your user settings, configuration settings? What this is your last chance. If you forgot to record all of your port settings or all of the user settings that we previously discussed, this is your last chance to do so before we may lose some of those things. So don't worry about it. You still have an opportunity here. You can press cancel and bomb out of the software update and go get that data, because that data is still there. Okay, but if you already captured it ahead of time, which is the best way to do it, at this screen you can go ahead and just click proceed, and off you go. If for some reason you do have to cancel out of that to go get those configuration settings, you can press cancel, and that's fine. Go ahead and go get your configuration settings, but the service bulletin is going to direct you to section 2.5.3 on how to get back into this software update at this point. So going back into the software update at this point, after you've hit cancel, again, this only applies if you had to cancel out before to go back and get your configuration settings. But if you did, the way to resume that at this point, 2.5.3 is going to tell us that we're going to go back to our update tab with our thumb drive in there, and we're going to select just create gold master, just create gold master C flash only. Put a check mark next to that only, and go ahead and hit proceed, and at that point it should jump you right back into the software update, right where you left off, and you should be good to go at that point. You're going to see some prompts on the screen, and I apologize, this isn't a great picture. What this says is it's now okay to power off the IFD. Please power cycle the IFD by either cycling the circuit breaker or pressing the upper left knob. So what this is telling you at this point, this is not saying that the software update is done. What it's saying is that part of those the rebooting processes that it kind of does on its own, for whatever reason, it needs your help at this point. Okay, you may not always see this. You may see it every time. It's hit or miss, but there are some times when the IFD actually needs our help to reboot. So what we recommend when you see this message is leave the thumb drive in. Do not pull the thumb drive no matter what you do, and use that upper left hand knob. If you press it in like a button and hold it in for 10 seconds, it should shut the IFD down, and then all you've got to do is press it again, and it should boot the IFD back up. With the thumb drive still in, it should come back up into maintenance mode, go right back to the update tab, and it should pick up right where it left off. Okay, But if you pull that USB drive and then cycle power on the IFD and it boots into flight mode, there's a good chance that IFD is going to have to come home for repair. So leave the USB drive in, do the power cycle, and you should be all set. Once you are finished, once it's done with everything, what you're going to see is this message right here. It says your Avidyne system is currently running an approved software version, and you'll also notice up here it says starting conformity check, and then right below that it says conform success. What that means is the conformity check ran, everything's happy, this thing's good to go. If you see this box, you're done. You can hit proceed. Software update is over. As far as actually physically loading the stuff. Okay. There are some post-installation accomplishments that we're going to want to take a look at. So go ahead and stick the USB flash drive in there if you're not already installed. Power on the IFD, boot it into maintenance mode. If it comes up in flight mode, just reboot it one more time to get into maintenance mode with the USB drive in. We're going to press the right side of the aux key, that aux page, go to the status tab. We're going to press the info button on that status tab in maintenance mode. So understand we're going to be in maintenance mode. We're going to press the aux key to toggle over to the status tab, and then we're going to press the info button until it says software. What this is all of the software part numbers and checksums and all of the good stuff that we just updated on the unit. If there are any of those items that are not conforming, it is going to show up in a red font. If that happens, that tells us that some part of this targeted software load did not take place correctly. If that happens, take a picture of that screen, shoot an email over to techsupport@avidyne.com. Let us have a look at it, and we'll see what is going on specifically with this thing. Okay. If everything in there is good to go and it's not showing anything in a red font whatsoever, then you're all set. Your software update is complete. The next thing we're going to do is boot it into flight mode. We're going to go to the aux page, and again, this is regular flight mode now. Go to the aux page group, and we're going to navigate over to the system tab. We're going to select the software line select key and verify that the system reports the version as 10.2.3.1. So this is going to be the very same screen that we started out with to verify what software level we started at. That same data block should now show that we're at 10.2.3.1. And at this point, you can go ahead and start going through the system to make sure that all of your settings are still the same as they were previous to the software update. If everything goes smoothly, those settings get saved. If everything, or if any part of the software update maybe goes a little wonky, you may lose some of those settings. If the software update fails entirely and the unit has to come back because of a corrupted compact flash or something like that, all of those settings are going to get wiped out. So that's why we recommend grab all of those up front, and at least you've got them. You're not going to have to worry about it. Okay. And at this point, if you're going to go run another IFD, like if there's 2 IFDs in the aircraft, now would be the time to go ahead and take your USB thumb drive and copy and paste that run once file onto the USB drive for the next IFD, and the update is going to go exactly the same. So, couple of things. In the event of a failure, one of the things that we have seen on these is if the IFD passes everything up to the conformity test, and you see this screen right here where it says your Avidyne system is not running an approved software version, see red entries on the software status page, what this is an indication of is usually that the create gold master file did not get run. So it's not a huge deal. It's savable. It's not nothing has been bricked here, but what you'll want to do if you see this is you're going to want to go ahead and hit cancel, and then you're going to toggle off of the update tab by using the aux key. Just toggle over to the logs and then toggle right back to update, and go in there and select only the create gold master file and hit proceed. And what that's going to do is it's going to pick up the software load from that point. It's going to go ahead and create the gold master, and then it's going to finish out the software load, and you should be good to go. If that doesn't correct the issue, and this happens after multiple tries of doing this, by all means Give us a call on tech support, shoot us an email at techsupport.avidyne or techsupport@avidyne.com, and we'll do our best to help you out and see if we can figure out what's going on. Okay. If any other failure takes place or anything else goes strangely with this thing, we highly recommend take out your phone, snap a picture of the screen that you're seeing on the IFD itself. Don't power down the unit. Don't remove the USB drive. Email that photo over to techsupport@avidyne.com and put IFD failure in the subject line. That'll make sure that it finds the right people as quickly as possible. Include your name, a good phone number, and what step of the service bulletin you're on, so that we can kind of compare those things real quick. And if you do that, that's pretty much the information we need to know what the next step needs to be. So when we do give you a call back, which will be as soon as we possibly can, we'll give you a call back with some good information on what the next steps need to be, rather than spending that time having you try to explain to us where you're at. Okay? Aside from that, that is all for the 10.2.3.1 update. Again, if you have any questions about this, or if you run into any issues giving this a shot, don't be afraid to shoot us an email over at techsupport@avidyne.com, and we'd be glad to answer any questions you've got. All right. Thanks for your time.